Welcome to Global Catastrophic Wildfire Prevention Day recordings. On October 13th, 2021, we had speakers from more than 20 social innovation organizations from more than 7 countries speak on how to prevent catastrophic wildfires. Welcome all to Global Catastrophic Wildfire Prevention Day and the Global Catastrophic Wildfire Prevention Alliance, which we at Crowd Doing Prevention Derivatives have been working towards. And this is just going to be a brief introduction. There'll be more depth around all of the themes that today's events. But I just wanted to give a bit of context for why we're here and what brought us to this point. And the Crowd Doing has been collaborating with diverse global research community and volunteers from 25 countries on this wildfire prevention research. And we've been doing that because the way we see the challenge is that we see that there are outcome fractals. That's what we call them. This is catastrophes that are preventable. And right now in the world, if you're familiar, we have some refer to it as the world risk transfer market system, in which insurance and reinsurance and retrocession happens. And all that moving of risk around is important for risk coverage, but for risk prevention, we need to build different kinds of structure. And so that's why we think that it's not a ultra marathon of individuals solving this whole problem. At Crowd Doing, we've been aiming to not make the problems larger than they have to be by hoarding the whole problem. We've aimed to share the challenge as much as humanly possible, because when we can do that, we can make the challenge something that all of us can feel collective autonomy, because self-determination theory over the last decades has shown you gain autonomy when you collaborate with those who have diverse capabilities that collectively, if you can systems integrate that. Now, that requires collaboration, and that also requires connecting the value proposition of the roll-up of all social innovations any given community or region needs to thrive and to prevent catastrophe. Work on the prevention of catastrophe. There's so many different kinds of ways you can approach it. You can reduce drought, and that's where the swales and the beavers show up in the water session. You can early detect wildfires and prevent them before they're catastrophically at scale. You can work upstream in terms of biodiversity in forests and ensuring that ecosystem services include the resilience of the forest. And so the way we think about this is that in large tech companies, they have 18 layers of security to keep an online website up. Like one of these global websites that millions of us rely on every day, they have 18 layers of prevention that keeps it up. But why can't we combine in collaboration the layers we require in order to get as many as 18 layers of prevention in any kind of risk we share collectively? Well, how is that possible? In theory, we think that we have some part of that thesis that we've been stewarding, but it's not a thesis we can steward in isolation. The way we think about it is that collectively there is an opportunity to say, each risk right now gets transferred in the world. Crop yield risk gets transferred in one market, and life insurance risk in another market, and health insurance risk in another market, and catastrophe bonds and property risk and multi-hazard peril risk get transferred in another market. And all of these are actually, among a much longer list, connected hazards. And so what we're saying is, if you can prevent the risk more efficiently than the cost of transferring the risk, we have a moral imperative to prevent the risk. Because if you ask someone if they want to have insurance, they'll say yes. But if you ask them whether they want their insurance to cover them, or do they want their house not to burn down, if they have a choice at prevention, if they love their home, they're going to very likely say they'd like to prevent the risk to the degree it's humanly possible. Now, none of us in isolation can prevent all of these regional scale, landscape scale catastrophes. But if we talk about the layers of prevention required, whether it's the oasification of deserts, whether it's the amazing work that Alpha is sharing in the water network about increasing rainfall, whether it's getting ahead through technologies, there's discussion today of satellites and AI and drones and advanced techs. There's a discussion also of retro technology. We've identified 150,000 goats in California unemployed 6 months a year. And, you know, if they were on the near the WUI and if they were actually put to that context, they'd be better for carbon, and they'd also prevent thousands of deaths over a multi-decade period. And in terms of air pollution deaths from wildfire prevention, because the most toxic thing we have is when we just have the wildfires run into the WUIs, and then they burn buildings that have toxic materials that get released when 10,000 structures burn. It releases toxic fumes that affect cities. And this year we've discovered that it's not an isolatable problem, even at a California level. Part of why we're establishing this as a global catastrophic wildfire prevention alliance is precisely because we've discovered, per the inspirational research that's happened, that New York had a major public health warning because of their feeling California's wildfire smoke. And so it's not an isolated problem anymore. In European countries, they have a value-added tax. Well, what if we have, every layer of prevention contribute to the net risk reduction kind of process? We think that collaboration to scale prevention to the scope of our collective challenge is something that's urgent. Now, just to speak to the other layers of today's context, we have the goal of championing both the social innovation leaders, thought leaders in researching this in our global landscape of researchers working on this in the social innovation sector. We sought to include as many of them as humanly possible in today's event. That's why we have almost 24 speakers from 7 countries, all working on catastrophic wildfire prevention in different dimensions. And so, this is not isolated to California or even the West Coast of North America. We have colleagues collaborators in this context, working in Brazil catastrophic wildfire prevention. So with that, I'd like to transition us to introducing James, who is the moderator for session 1, and will be hosting us here. James, it's a privilege to introduce you. We're incredibly grateful for your wisdom in joining us as moderator. James has incredible thought leadership that connects to solving many global problems. And thank you so much, James, for moderating session 1. I'll hand over to James.
Well, thank you, Bobby. That's a hard introduction to follow. I'm James Dudfield. Welcome to the first panel session for Global Catastrophic Wildfire Prevention Day. Having grown up in Australia and experienced the bushfire season each year since the 1960s, I'm fully conversant with both the challenge and danger of wildfire, but also the increasing incidence of catastrophic wildfire. And having moved to California 2 years ago, oh my gosh, it's just as bad. Initially, I thought it was pretty exciting that there were lots of eucalypts growing around in California because it made me feel like home, but eucalypts in California are a bad combination, right? So it's super important for us as a group to try to pull together and work together across this sector, which is incredibly disparate across the world. The intention of this session is to connect, collaborate, and share learnings to accelerate sector change. Each of our panel members have a viewpoint to share and ideas for working together, and hopefully something to promote as well, which will add to the interest and fun of this session. Now, our general themes are going to cover prevention, early detection, response and recovery. Each panel member will talk for a few minutes about their area of expertise, share their key messages, and we'll look to have a conversation across the panel and I invite all attendees to join us and explore how we build a more effective and connected sector. So raise your hand, pop a question in the chat, feel free to direct it to any individual, and the individuals who you're going to be directing it to in order of presentation are Carsten Brinkshuttle, who's co-founder of Dryad Networks. Dryad provides ultra-early fire detection as well as health and growth monitoring solutions for public and private forests. So they have a large-scale IoT network, sensors that detect wildfires and provide valuable insights into the microclimate and growth of the forest. So some interesting comments from early detection. Then we'll be followed by Jetfire Zin of FireTerminator. He'll probably do a bit of a demonstration, I expect. Now, Jetfire gets to talk about response a bit early because of the time zone he's in. Then we'll flip back to prevention. German Perez from Fireflighting, which is a service for wildfire prevention through real-time risk assessment with UAVs and AI technology. We'll be followed by Ivan O'Neill, who's co-founder of Madrona's Wildfire Defense. They make it easy for property owners to reduce wildfire risk, maintain insurance coverage and qualify for premium discounts with a platform that scores a property's wildfire risk, develops a tailored treatment plan and offers a contractor network to get work done. That'll be followed by Gilberto DeSalvo of Delphi Inc. They help stop fires through actionable data delivered in real time from dangerous or remote locations. Then Edison Shih of Ringfire, again focused on early detection, with AI technology advancing to smoke image detection where filtering and recognition functions on light reflector shades, shapes and textures get well trained by sufficient data sets, collected and cooked in optical spectroscopy domain knowledge. Wow, I'm going to learn something with that today. And then we're going to be completed this session with Steve Wolf of Pyronemesis. Now, Steve, you've got a pretty impressive bio here. It sounds a bit fancy after 30 years of blowing things up in Hollywood, right? For various stars. You've featured on Discovery and you've invented a new way to control fire using jet engines to drive retardant and suppressant laden mist into wooded areas to prevent or extinguish fires in planes otherwise inaccessible. Now, that's a lot for me to download. My apologies for talking at you. So I'm going to pass over now to Carsten. And as I said, a few minutes to introduce yourself, what you do, and give us some key messages to help start the conversation. Over to you.
Thank you, James, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. Exciting topic for us because obviously this is extremely close to my heart and what we're doing at Dryad. Quick introduction. My name is Carsten Brinkshuttle. I'm co-founder and chief executive of Dryad Networks. It's a German-based company that focuses on ultra-early detection of wildfires. That's our mission. As a company, we are an impact for profit. So we want to have an impact with the technology. The prime objective is to have an impact on climate change by preventing wildfires and the catastrophic carbon emissions and impact on biodiversity it has. My background is telecoms. I've spent about 25 years in telecoms companies doing 3 startups in that space. And now I'm basically converted for the better to do something good with technology, which is the mission of what we're doing. I'd like to share briefly a quick presentation on what we do with Dryad. And I won't bore you along with slides, but I thought it's a good idea to quickly walk through. It gives a bit of structure to my talk, basically. So, at Dryad, we've focused on wildfires because they have such a huge impact. And what I didn't know when we started Dryad, and most people don't know and get stunned by, is that it's causing 20% of global carbon emissions. It's about 7.8 billion tons of carbon being emitted from wildfires each year. And yet, funnily enough, they don't appear in any country's carbon budget because somebody said that wildfires are carbon neutral. As over the next 100 years, as the forest regrows, the carbon gets reabsorbed by the forest. Of course, we don't have 100 years to solve the climate crisis. So it cannot possibly be seen as carbon neutral. It's a massive net contributor to climate change, which is why it needs to stop. And in particular, knowing that we as humans are responsible for about 80% of the wildfires, either through arson or reckless behavior, we need to stop it. It's our responsibility. It's also a huge impact on biodiversity. More than 3 billion animals lose their life in wildfires each year. And that's not ants or insects, it's mammals and reptiles. So it's a huge impact there. And financially, it's catastrophic. We've taken a very conservative figure here of $140 billion annual damages. I've seen other figures that go, 500, 600 billion, depending on how you count the damages. It's a massive financial issue that wildfires are causing. So obviously there are many solutions trying to tackle this issue, and thanks God we're not the only ones trying to do it. The satellites looking at it from space, they're getting better. There are some already in orbit, and some are being added to it. Cameras are being placed into the forest. They all make sense. The issue with those systems is that they often take quite long to detect the fire. Because the fire needs to grow to a certain size before it can be detected. And so we would like to complement these optical systems. That's our mission, with an ultra early detection, as we call it, by focusing on the first 60 minutes after some idiot throws a cigarette. We would like to ring the alarm bells. That's our mission. And so what we've developed over the last year and a half is actually a large-scale IoT sensor network. These are, the sensor devices. These are solar-powered gas sensors that are ultra-sensitive. They can detect hydrogen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide at the ppm level, so really ultra-sensitive. And we use built-in machine learning to reliably detect that the gas changes in the air composition is actually a wildfire. Once we detect a wildfire, we send out an alert signal to detect it and hopefully trigger the response as quickly as possible. But because in the forest there typically is no mobile network coverage, we need to build our own. So we're basically building these guys. These are solar-powered network infrastructure for our sensors and generic IoT network infrastructure we place into the forest that gives a communication bubble of about 3 kilometers radius each. And then every 3 kilometers, we put one of those mesh gateways to eventually relay the information to the internet, where we have a cloud monitoring system that can monitor the sensors, do device management, and of course, obviously send out alert applications. I'm a telecoms guy, so you see we like these network diagrams. And so we're quite proud of that. We do this mesh network because that's kind of unique, and it enables these large-scale installations to cover vast areas with our network, and then place millions of the sensors, which we will need to cover very large areas. So the idea is to get lots and lots of those sensors, attach them to the tree every few hundred meters, have the gateways every few kilometers, and then really catch fires in their infancy so that we can put them out when they're still small and innocent, so to say, preventing fire escapes. And so we want to protect, of course, the assets. We want to protect reduce the cost for firefighting, and eventually save human and wildlife. But once we have this network infrastructure in place, we can also do other things. We can look at determining the fire risk level by determining the fuel moisture level. We could look at the health status of a tree by measuring the water that flows up a tree stem. We can look at soil moisture, all of the things that actually basically doing health and growth monitoring for the forest. We can also potentially prevent illegal logging by listening to chainsaw sounds. So these are all systems that are possible once we have a telecommunications network in the forest, which currently does not exist. So we're basically creating this network infrastructure for IoT, and the killer application, of course, is what we want with wildfire detection. And this is my last thing, is we're really an impact for profit. So we're looking at how many sensors we want to sell. We want to place about 30 million sensors by 2030 into the forests of this world. And with this, we want to protect about 60 million hectares of forest with our system. And that we can calculate, given the risk we're seeing, about saving about 1.4 million hectares of forest from burning. And that would save more than 600 million tons of carbon emissions, which sounds a lot, and it is a lot compared to Tesla, for example. they say on their webpage that the entire fleet of cars has saved 17 million tons of carbon emissions so far. So we think we can have a much bigger impact. If we just put out 1 or 2 mega fires, we have more impact than Tesla will ever have. And that's my quick overview of Dryad and how we intend to fight and prevent catastrophic wildfires.
Thank you, Carsten. We have our first question, so I'm going to go to you, Midi, and then I'm going to ask maybe Jorman and Ivan to provide some observations since you're in a similar space. Midi? Maybe that was an unintended hands up. So Jorman or Ivan, what's your reaction to what looks like some pretty cool technology from Carsten?
I'll go first, I guess. I could see many uses for this in especially areas near population centers, and there is definitely a network of early detection systems that are being deployed today, and I think we're going to see from a few others. But having a telecommunications network in the forest would also certainly help a lot of the first responders and others who are fighting these fires. So very impressive concept.
Thank you.
James, I think you're muted.
I was, thank you. David has raised his hand.
Yeah, hi, quick question. I love the use of the LoRaNet as a low power utilization of that strategy. It seems really, really interesting to me. How are you able to establish what fire there would have been if you didn't have early detection? So when it comes to carbon credits or other offsets down the line, I'm sure we'll see this question more today as well. Wondering how you're going to be looking at that to establish, with Tesla, at least they know kind of car to car how it would have been. How will you be able to see how big the fire would have been?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is, of course, not trivial to determine, and we put a lot of effort into arriving at the 600 million tons to make that credible. So basically, we're assuming that the sensors will be deployed in areas of a higher fire risk. And that's one assumption, of course, that you don't stick them into a swamp where it never burns, but you put them where the fires actually do start. And then, of course, you have historic data on most areas that are prone to fires, how many fires statistically over the last 10 years have happened in a given area, and what area was statistically burned on average by a fire. So using this statistical approach, you can actually get to something that's not pulled out of thin air, that projects how many fires you would prevent and how much area without the sensors being present would have burned. Obviously, this is not guaranteed. These are basically calculations based on statistics and historical data.
Thanks.
Well, before I go to Colin, there's an interesting suggestion as to whether someone like PG&E, which is a large electricity utility in the States, would have the infrastructure for you to build off. Can anyone provide Carsten with an introduction to someone at PG&E?
Not required, thank you.
Colin, over to you.
That is an obvious problem that we can solve for these guys. So yeah, no, thank you very much for the offer. It is PG&E and others are definitely on the top of our list, and there's clear interest from the utilities because they have a massive liability issue with that needs to be solved with technology.
Thank you, Carsten. Colin. Can't hear from Colin, your hand's up. How about Philippe?
Hey, yeah, with the second part, sorry, Colin, you want to go ahead?
Oh, okay, thank you, Philippe. Yeah.
Okay.
So, excuse me. So, Carsten, thank you. Wonderful presentation. I live in a small town in British Columbia, surrounded by forest and smoke most summers. So this is very relevant. What's the kind of cost per acre, hectare, whatever volume of land we want to measure it by? And who have you found the most interested as potential clients? Is it government, utilities, combination, etc.?
So the cost is about 12 euro, roughly the same in dollars per hectare. Because one sensor, that's about 50 euro, can cover about 5 hectares on average, 0.2 per hectare we need on average for deployment. We also charge an annual subscription fee for accessing the cloud platform and telecommunications cost of about 10 to 15%. So it's about it is not free, obviously, we need to make a profit, but it's relatively affordable if it's focused on the wildland urban interface, where most of the wildfires are being started by humans, actually. And the interest we're receiving is a lot from private forestry, which obviously has a lot to lose. The entire stand, the entire asset is gone in a matter of weeks that they've been growing for 50 years in case of a catastrophic wildfire. So there's clear interest from the commercial side. There is also interest from utilities, clearly, because of the liability issue that they're facing by the fires that their equipment is causing. We do also have interest from governments, although of course the sales cycles in that area are much longer, and we're not expecting any time soon to be deployed in government funded environments. But there is clearly interest by those as well, and there is a lot of interest by insurance companies, which are being hit at about a rate of $10 billion globally with wildfire caused damages.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Philippe, but then I need to swap to Jetfire. They're on a tight timeline.
Oh, it's okay, James. My question is more in the line of what Colin asked, and that was partially covered already. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will come back to this topic, but if it's okay, Jetfire, are you ready to share what you're doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, I'm ready, but there's an issue. I can't share my screen. That's a problem. So I sent you an email, James, if you're able to pull out the presentation or the demo.
Okay, doing that now.
In the meantime, I have a question for Mr. Carsten. What is the working temperature of your sensor?
The working temperature? Well, you mean we do have temperature, humidity, air pressure sensing as well, but the operating temperature is minus 20 to plus 80, if that's the request.
Okay.
Celsius, that is, sorry.
Great.
Oh, sorry, I'm having my my own issues trying to share. Bobby, as admin, can you help get Jetfire online?
Yeah, I mean, basically you just have to give it permission, but if we need someone else to share it, we can. But you should be able to just, once you click the share tray, just say give the screen, share the whole screen, or share a window.
Yeah, but mine is like it's pitch black. I can't. There's no options when I do share. But I put the link of the presentation.
Share it for you, Jetfire, and I'll share it.
Please.
And share screen, and you'll just tell me to go ahead.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat, or I can send it to you by email.
Right, I'll share. Is this what you wanted me to click, Jetfire?
Yeah, the genially.
This one? Jetfire?
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Let me know what I need to do.
Okay, I mean, for any icon that is like moving, can you press on the 3 little dot on your bottom right to put it in full screen? there's 10 pages. Yeah, full screen, yeah. And then for every icon that is moving, and there's like a little pop-up window that will describe what we do.
Hey, Bree, it's Michael Kleeman.
Hi, welcome. Jetfire, are you here? So why don't you just tell me if I can go ahead through it, and you can share if you want.
Okay, yeah, we can start with this page. I mean, we all know the issue of wildfires around the world, so I just want to talk about the solution. This solution, if you can hover over eco-friendly, biodegradable, plant-based, less toxic in water. This solution has been created by Dr. Judah J. He's the founder and scientist of FireTerminator International PT Ltd. It's a 100% plant-based liquid biotechnology, which has the ability to either prevent or extinguish all classes of fire. This is the only solution in the world that is less toxic than drinking water. And if you can hover on the less toxic than drinking water, it's a QR code of the FireTerminator comparative analysis, which has been done by a third-party lab approved by the Standard Council of Canada, comparing our solution with the drinking water guidelines from various different countries. It's been tested for PFAS chemicals. There's non-detected PFAS chemicals at a parts per trillion basis. We've tested for heavy metals, and there's less heavy metal in our solution compared to drinking water. It's non-toxic compared to all of the fire retardants, firefighting foams, and all other extinguishing solutions around the world. It's fireproof when you infuse it. It's compatible with every single firefighting equipment. As you can see, this is the QR code, which will bring you to a Google Drive link of the report. It works in seconds, and it works upon impact onto the fuel. Now, it's anti-freeze. It has a 15 to 20 year shelf life. You can uncap, recap, and you can still use it. If you can hover on the location on the right.
Location there?
Yes. Okay, so in 2015, Dr. Judah donated more than 50,000 liters of JN1010 and 669 to help Indonesia fight their peatland fires. And guess what? FireTerminator succeeded. You can go to the next one. So how does it work? If you can hover on the oxygen. So to create a fire, you need four elements: various heat source, chemical reaction, oxygen, and fuel. But most firefighting agents currently extinguish fire by removing one of the four components, which is mainly oxygen. And we call them as encapsulators because they want to suffocate the fire. But you cannot suffocate the fire by removing oxygen because it's readily available across the globe. If you can click on the fuel. Now, how does FireTerminator do it? FireTerminator, once the liquid, when you touch the fuel, it issues a covalent bond, which creates a free radical, and that free radical interferes with the combustion molecule, therefore negating the combustion from proceeding. That's how we knock down the fire instantly upon point of contact. That free radical does another thing, it is create an aerodynamic shielding, which helps excellent burn back control. What does a burn back control mean? So once you extinguish the fire, you're no longer able to reignite it because the combustion molecule changed from a combustible to a non-combustible. So that's how FireTerminator works. You can go on to the next. Now, this is one of our solution. It's called the FireTerminator JN1010. One unique thing about FireTerminator is all our solutions have one thing in common. We're all eco-friendly, plant-based, biodegradable, non-toxic, and we all work in seconds. This is the only solution in the world that can cover class A, B, C, D fires all in one. It's termite-proof when you infuse it into wood and all that. If you can click on the first video, the 300-liter GoPro, this is a little video it shows you how FireTerminator works upon the point of contact of the fuel. In the first 4 seconds, you can see the fuel just disappearing. And the good thing about this is once you extinguish the fire, it could be wood, hydrocarbon fuels, anything. You can no longer reignite it, even 4 hours after it being extinguished. That's how the aerodynamic shielding works. Free radical. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Bobby. So this QR code right here will bring you to the Google Drive folder, which contains all of the certifications, all the videos, all the testimonies, and the various product and solutions that FireTerminator offers to the marketplace. You go on to the next slide. Now, speaking of wildfires, this is the FireTerminator GN669. It's only for wildfires. As you can see in the background, Dr. Judah helped Indonesia extinguish their peatland fires. If you can hover on the location, please. 50,000 liters, which has been donated to Jambi, Indonesia, at a 2% ratio equals at 2.5 million liters of extinguishing power. That could cover around 617 acres. And all that just to, help Indonesia, Jambi, Indonesia, extinguish their peatland fires, because Dr. Judah is very, very up and motivated into impacting the planet and saving the environment. Now, this GN669 has a 20-year shelf life. And once you infuse this into wood, it's termite proof. And at the bottom, there's multiple different interviews and news channels and all of the different interviews which has been done presenting Dr. Judah and the credibility of him helping Indonesia. You can go to the next slide. Now, last but not least is the FireTerminator Flexi. What is this? This is fireproof building materials. So you can if you can hover on the left black jelly, this is the black Flexi, which can be molded into fireproof cases to prevent spread of fire. So for example, you can cover a lithium-ion battery. So if the battery overheats, it will not spread across the vehicle and any electronics. And we can also make fireproof tires. On the second picture is a fireproof wood, as you can see, to help build fireproof buildings, homes, building structures. The next one is a fireproof rock wool, which can be put in between walls to prevent the fire spreading. Now, if you guys can see the blue image, that's the machine that we would use to infuse the wood to make it fireproof and termite proof. And if you guys want to see more videos, the QR code on the top right will bring you to the Google Drive with all the videos. You can go next. Now, what is the cost of inaction? So for example, in 2018, there was $91 billion, it cost $91 billion to California. And there was 1.8 million hectares being burnt. In 2021, we don't know how much it cost yet because it's right now. But what we know is there's 2.4 million hectares being burnt. If we look at 2018, we can, if we're being conservative, let's say, for example, it costs 60 billion. Now, how much would FireTerminator cost if we wanted to extinguish 2.4 million acres that are currently burning? If you can go to the next slide. So 1 acre would cost $526 US. So you have 10,000 square meters at 2% concentrate with 98% either fresh or salt water. You could cover 10,000 square meters. And it ends up at 1 acre cost 13 cents per square meter, which is 526 per acre. For example, if we're in 2021, there's 2.4 million acres being burnt. If we want to extinguish the entire thing using FireTerminator solutions, it would cost $1.3 billion. And that's if 2.4 million acres are being burnt. And if you have FireTerminator available at the area, you wouldn't even reach 500,000 acres burnt, because with FireTerminator, you will be able to prevent, extinguish, and control any fires.
Thank you, Jetfire. There were some questions around using this product as a preventative tool, retrofitting existing buildings. Is it waterproof? Any other specific questions from the group along those lines? Steve?
Steve,
so I think you're overestimating the cost of suppression, because when you count the total number of acres burned, once an acre is burned, you don't need to come in with suppressant on it. It's gone. There's nothing flammable there. What you need to look at is just, you know, what area of active fire is on fire, and that's where you need to apply retardant or suppressant. So I think you're overestimating the cost of suppression, because you should be really looking at, you know, what's the perimeter of the fire, not the area of what's already been burnt.
Yeah, I mean, that I understand. I mean, that I took those numbers to pretend as if 2.4 million acres are currently being burnt, right? Not that it has already been burnt.
Right,
and
but,
this is,
unless the entire fire occurs simultaneously in 15 minutes, you know, those areas are burnt out already. There's no need for treatment on those areas.
Okay,
sure.
I think it also looks like a really exciting, effective product. Peter, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Short and tricky. you know, it is what I'm thinking at. One thing is to use it in human environment. Another thing is to use it at the forest. Now, you mentioned that once you spray it, termites could not get to that wood. Now, how about fungi? If we spray a piece of forest with something that will not allow fungi to grow there anymore, we are done. Even with just killing termites there by not providing them any food, we do a lot of damage. But forest without fungi, forget it. It's not forest. It's just a couple of trees.
So here's Dr. Judah. Dr. Judah, he's the scientist behind FireTerminator Solutions. But I think I could answer your question on the FireTerminator comparative analysis. It says the biochemical oxygen demand, right? And that says how biodegradable the solution is. And it's biodegradable within 5 days, and compared to with water, and that's a 6% concentrate. For example, if we're using 2% concentrate, it wouldn't be 67 milligrams per liter. It would be less than 10 milligrams per liter, and that's similar to water.
Misha.
Yes, Dr. Judah.
Yeah, could I contribute a little bit in that point? Now, I understand Peter's point, where he's coming from. Peter is very correct if the fungus are not able to grow. Now, when we're talking about infusing in a wood, we infuse in a higher quantity than the protection of fire. Now, when you talk about forest fire, we use, let's say, 2%. So it's highly diluted. So fungus could grow. There's not an issue on there. Microbialism could grow. But we're talking about infusing in a wood that Jetfire showed in the long wood. We have higher concentration to protect, at the same time, to protect the termites from eating that. Thank you.
Excellent, clear, thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I think I'd like to revisit this conversation towards the end of the session after Steve does his presentation as well. I think what an exciting concept that has great potential, and we will explore it more. And I think there will be conversations beyond this chat that will explore connections. I'd like to ask Jorman, am I pronouncing your name correctly, Jorman Perez?
Hello. Hello. Yeah. It's Jorman. That's correct. Jorman Perez. Yeah.
Over to you. Let's resequence back to prevention.
Sorry.
Over to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to share a small presentation, just something brief. And in the meantime, I would like to thank you. I mean, it's really nice to see other initiatives in the wildfire prevention area, other people creating technology for that. I have the chance to be with Andres. We both are co-founders of Firelighting, based in Berlin, by the way. And let me share the screen.
Arston, are you building a team over there?
Berlin is definitely the capital of firefighting wildfires.
Yeah. So, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Nice. So, yeah, we will tell you a little bit of what we do. We at Firelighting are creating bio-inspired intelligence for drones to prevent wildfires. So why we call it bio-inspired is because we are trying to, let's say, replicate the same way as humans can observe, can understand, explore the world. And by doing a better job exploring the world, we can have better insights. So we are using this bio-inspired concept to bring it into wildfire prevention. So we are providing drones with this touch, sight, smell, hearing, and doing a fusion of all these sensors to be able to maximize the quality of the information that we get when we are doing detection of risks to prevent wildfire. And that let us the chance to do prioritized autonomous inspection. So we are creating this technology in order to optimize the inspection process, where you have, for example, people using drones, yes, but still with a person on land to do the job. So we are doing all this process autonomously. And the typical use case that we see, as already the other speakers mentioned, is the issue about a utility infrastructure. So one simple example of what we do is our drones fly without the pilot. That's because we do autonomous flight by prioritizing where the drone has to look at. So, and where the drone has to look at to get the better insights, to pay attention where the drone has to pay attention. But if it's a risky area, we have to look at this direction. We have to look there. So we have to prioritize how to inspect and how to detect risk, because in the end, that's money we save, and that's better insights to prevent wildfires. So we fly drones without the pilot. The drones makes decision, and then we do real-time risk detection for wildfire prevention. As you see, this example is related to vegetation management with utility infrastructure. So this type of risk is one of the examples of that we are capable to detect with our technology. We have done a lot of research understanding how this how the causes of wildfire prevention of wildfires work. We have these three categories. On-site events is, of course, we have fire and smoke, but an important part is also human risks. About between 80 and 90% of wildfires are because of human activity. So we are prioritizing that type of risk as something we have to detect, and also combining with vegetation risks. As I just mentioned in the example, because vegetation management is a really big topic that, if we want to take care of the forest to prevent wildfires. So this is very short what we do. We are firefighting. We want to protect forests, businesses, and people with our solution. So yeah, happy to answer your questions, happy to collaborate. Yeah, I don't know if you would like to add anything, Andres.
Yeah, also thank you for letting us to participate here. We are pretty open to collaborate in this. As German showed, one use case is in electricity companies, but we had also found interest in insurance companies. That's another area. So we're working together to build a solution around that. And yeah, and we are also exploring more other use cases in emergency services.
So that's it, and it's something we also try to mention. This is a very research-based approach. So we think that's. Oh, there is a. We can pass maybe to. There is a question right in the chat. So Steve.
It's me, huh?
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the question, please?
Pardon me?
I think that might have been a question for Jetfire.
Okay.
I'd be really interested to know the smarts behind the drones. That what sort of algorithm intelligence within the drone helps it to be so selective about data. That seems to be a key difference.
Yeah, there are, as I mentioned, there are solutions that in general try to use drones to do inspections, but still we have seen that it's not really optimized how they do it. So in the first place, still you need people on land to be able to fly the drone, and also there is more you can exploit if the drone knows where it has to look at, if the drone knows how to prioritize according to what it perceives from the environment, from the area where it's doing the risk detection, you can maximize how you the insights you have. So it's basically, we talk about is optimizing the whole thing, and we are combining both the autonomous part with different detection models, like visual detection models, to be able to identify these risks, and informing the drone about, for example, if we have an area to explore, first we can identify where it may make sense to pay attention. So if you have a thermal camera, for example, we know that is a warm area, so a drone better goes there to explore. Also, we want the drones to be able to say, okay, by paying attention to this type of infrastructure, by locating the camera, actually there is a lot about using LiDAR to do the inspections, but there is always this, or the magic of how to use properly the LiDAR, how to properly fly, how to properly locate the sensors. So we are tackling this problem, how to properly locate the sensor to gather better information and to have better insights.
Carsten, are you going to put some of your sensors on these drones?
Not sure if we put the sensor on the drone. Of course, that's entirely possible. You can fly the sensors, but I think there is a lot of synergy between the drone inspection and sensors. I think when a sensor, for example, detects or has a suspicion of a wildfire by looking at the gases that we detect, you definitely want to have verification of that, and the drone is an excellent way of actually verifying whether there is an issue by providing visuals, basically. And I'm just thinking, if the drones could only be a bit bigger and take some of that retardant that we've just seen, that would be ideal, right? So we could have like a fully automated system. That would be the dream come true, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things we were also exploring about, well, we know that the drones could go to the place and also take actions. So it's a second stage of our project, but we wanna not only detect but find some important like ways that the drone could do in place. Like maybe the drone could cut some specific vegetation. Maybe the drone could spray some retardant. We could analyze that kind of stuff at a later stage, but we are considering also that.
Yes, I mean, I've been asked that question actually several times by customers, whether there would be a collaboration with a drone company that did an automated fire extinguishing system. And I think you want to throw everything at it. You want to detect it as early as possible. You want to verify with multiple sources, whether it's satellite, cameras, drones, and ideally, you want to put it out. And if we do it all very quickly, then you actually don't need thousands of liters of whatever you spray at it, retardant or water. You can actually have very small amounts that you need to carry, which actually might work with a drone, because I think, yeah, a drone that can carry 1,000 liters is not easy to find on the market, but smaller amounts I think you can carry already.
Thank you. I have a few hands up. Yangbo, your hand recently rose, and just to let you know, Peter, Jetfire, and Philippe, your hands are still up. I don't know if you still have questions, but Yangbo, over to you first.
Well, thank you everyone for presenting. That this question is geared mainly towards those working with drones and other autonomous aerial vehicles. So what could be some potentials? How might we better integrate? Say we have drones and such, we have these networks. Have there been much effort to integrate those into existing systems? For example, one that comes right off would be if we're going to synchronize and integrate the ground-based monitoring with satellite-based monitoring. Perhaps a company like Inmarsat may be willing to jointly provide some sort of a platform for this, at least a way so that regardless of what platform you're using, whether it's not Inmarsat or which other provider you're using, that you're able to interoperate and share data, learn insights from how fires are detected, prevented, or addressed elsewhere in the world. So really having that real-time data sharing systems, has there been much development on that front it's not just creating new data platforms, but also integrating with the data platforms that already exist?
So yes, for us, to be honest, it's not about only using this technology is the correct one, or this other technology is the correct one. It's the whole synergy between among different technologies that we can take advantage of, because sometimes we are asked as well, but there are the satellites also. Yes, those are one source of information that we can help us prioritize where we have to do the inspections, for example, or same if there is the networks such as DRED they are doing, is also another source of information that we can use to be able to do the verification of the wildfires. So for us, yes, I think there are very solutions isolated at the moment, but yeah, it's about creating a whole synergy of the different approaches, like I'll call it end to end, like from the moment that you know that there is an area that is prone to wildfires to the moment that you can actually stop the fire.
Thank you. I know there are a few more questions. Please add them also to the chat. I'm conscious of time, so please let me be pushy here and pass over to Ivan to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're doing. I mean, I can see your screen, but not hear you.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get I think I'm off mute now.
Yep, you're good.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for the opportunity to share Madronas Wildfire Defense with you. And it's exciting to see all of the interest in wildfire prevention and all the efforts being made in this area. So I will, and now it wants me to approve. You're not able to see my screen, correct?
I can see the screen.
Okay, then I don't need to worry about system preferences. All right, so in the interest of time, I am going to fly right through this and be brief. You know, this won't come as a surprise to most of the folks here, but we now face wildfire black swan events almost every year. This is a look at the last 10 years of total insured and uninsured losses in California. And you can see the outlying years of 2017, 2018, 2020, and now 2021, which we are only starting to get data on, but it's also shaping up to be a bad year. And 1 in 3 homes in the United States are located in the wildland urban interface as of 2018, which is about 34 million homes. And of those, about 4.5 million are in higher extreme wildfire risk areas, 2 million of which are in California alone. And the reconstruction cost value of these homes is $1.1 trillion as a conservative estimate, to say nothing of the lives and livelihoods that they house. The good news, though, is that we know what can impact the survivability of homes in wildfire events. There's a common misperception that there's a wall of flames that just moves through a neighborhood or an area and destroys everything in its path, but that's usually not the case. In most circumstances, there's one home survives and another doesn't. And we've analyzed CAL FIRE data to determine what impacts the survivability of a structure. It's things like the roof, the windows, the eaves, and defensible space alone reduces the damage or destruction risk by half. This was a study done by the Insurance Institute of Building and Home Safety, and shows the impact of defensible space and vegetation management on wildfire survival. So we built Madronas to make it easy for property owners and insurers to reduce wildfire risk at the individual parcel level. So you can go to madronas.com, type in an address. Right now, we're unfortunately still in our early phase, and we're only available in Marin and Sonoma counties near San Francisco. But we'll get you your wildfire score and a custom treatment plan. And then we have a network of vetted contractors to help you get the work done, or you can choose to do it yourself. And what this looks like is we analyze the risk of a property using satellite imagery, remote sensing, and computer vision and machine learning to assess the various risk factors of a property. And we also do an in-person inspection today with a network of qualified assessors and note all of the different aspects of a structure's home hardening and defensible space. We generate about 1 gigabyte of data for every home that we analyze. And this, we're showing use of LiDAR data to understand the vegetation layers. And what this does is it allows us to create an automatically generated treatment plan that shows you both what you need to do, how much it will contribute to reducing your wildfire risk, and the cost to have our contractor network do it. So you can prioritize which items you want to do yourself and which items you want to use a professional for. And if you choose to do this work with Madronas, I'll give you a dedicated project manager to oversee the contractors. We work with insurance companies to qualify policyholders for discounts and to maintain their coverage. And then we have a maintenance service to maintain the work and keep your home safe. So we think this opportunity is large, and the providers are fragmented, which gives us an opportunity to add value and to greatly scale the pace of wildfire risk reduction at the individual parcel level. Thank you, and look forward to your questions and discussion.
Thank you, Ivan, and also hopefully to change the way a lot of homeowners and residents view their role in mitigating catastrophic wildfire. Steve, you have a question?
Yes, I wondered to what degree, if any, will insurers cover these mitigation moves?
Yes, that's a very good question, and that's one that I'm hoping we will attempt to make progress on during today's conversations and sessions. There are efforts amongst insurers in California, and in fact, yesterday the Department of Insurance issued a notice for a public hearing about their proposed plans. But right now, insurers, as far as I can tell, are willing to offer premium discounts, but only if they're allowed to charge an appropriate amount to allocate for that risk. So there is a little bit of a tension in the market today. And I think that we need new financial instruments that can incentivize homeowners to do this. And the people who benefit then are, the insurers. So there is a who pays, who benefits problem that I'm hoping that this collected group will help us solve.
Colin, your hand's up again, I think. A question?
I think there were some questions in the chat that I'll go ahead and bring up. One question was whether the assessment is free. And today they are for our early customers. And if you have anybody in Marin and Sonoma County that we'd love to work with them. And an assessment is currently takes about an hour, and we're adding technology tools to reduce that time by as much as half in the future.
Thank you, Ivan. Tammy?
Yeah,
your hand is up.
Those were my questions. I'm actually with Black Swan, so I love that you brought that up, the wildfire Black Swans. So yeah, my question was, how long does it take? Is it free? And are you able to do this proactively to identify, like if you look at a community, can you identify which homes in the community need this? Or is it just after the home has been identified, then you can go and evaluate what things need to be done?
We are able to identify each home's risk in advance. So we actually know who our best customers are and do proactively market to them. But we're happy to work with anyone to do this work.
Have you found them to be receptive?
It's a mixed bag. In a lot of cases, it comes down to education and awareness. And fortunately, we have, all the different agencies and organizations, nonprofits, doing a lot of great work to get the word out. And it also comes down to establishing new social norms that, this work needs to be a part of living in these areas. And, nobody likes to see dry, untrimmed bush. It's unsightly.
Yep. I hope you join the discussion for the public hearing on November 10th. We'll be there, and I think it would be good if you're there too.
Absolutely. I just registered today. Thank you.
Well, I've just lost Mishka, but I'm going to move to Gilberto to quickly push people along. I've got to make sure Steve has some time at the end. We don't want to run out of time. Gilberto.
Awesome. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gilberto DeSalvo, and I'm the CEO of Delfire. See if I can get this to work. Our goal as a company is to reduce the human, environmental, economic impact of grid-related wildfires. We chose to focus on a grid as we need better data to understand the ignition sources of these fires in order to prevent them. Plus, 911 calls often give vague location of an incident, with delays sometimes influencing fire size and subsequent severity. Our goal with our system is to reduce the notification time of these fires in seconds, while using ground-based sensors to collect key metrics as they change over time prior to failure. With this information, we hope that future wildfires can be prevented. Our hardware device can be deployed near power lines and monitors up to 1 mile with a multitude of partially redundant sensors to reliably detect fires. For detection, we use AI, much like a Ring doorbell that warns you when somebody's at your door. Once a detection occurs, or at a preset interval for maintenance inspections, our device relays the data back to our servers for further analysis and storage. The data can be visualized and compared with previous records of that location directly from our intuitive web portal. Let's turn quickly to prevention. For example, let's look at the 2018 Camp Fire, which started by melting conductors sparking the underlying brush. This event could have been detected by our thermal camera before it turned critical, and the line could have been shut down. Other scenarios collected can be programmed for future prevention into our system. Overall, our goal is to provide a cost-effective system for the power utilities that provides them with automated fire detection, enables the collection of data on ignition sources to eventually leverage prevention, and we provide them with a video recording of how the fire started, as well as a way to potentially impact their liability. Further, our wind sensors positioned near the power poles will give critical data in near real time to potentially reduce the duration of public safety power shutoff events. I'd like to acknowledge our team, advisors, which are making this possible, and our funders, including DOE and Sunstone Ventures. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I see a few hands up. I don't know if there are new questions, but like I'm just quite impressed by the development of technology and the opportunity to have much better identification and early monitoring. It just seems such a great opportunity to try to scale this and create some uniformity across the system. Mishra, I know your hand's been up for a while.
Yes, I have a question for Gilberto. Yes, electric grid pretty much is one of the main contributors to wildfire. That's a well-known fact. Actually, 10% of wildfires last year was due to ignition on electric grid. So my question is, it's not only melting conductors or part of the electric grid, it's also metallic particles that spread by wind far away from the electric grid. You see what I'm speaking about? When we have a short circuit and we have wind conditions, these metallic particles taken by wind fly on the distance up to 50, 70, 100 meters. It depends on wind speed and particle size. And there are two types of these particles. Aluminum particles, which is most dangerous ones, and cuprum particle, which is inflammable but less dangerous. So my question is, does your technology allow to detect fires ignited by this by these metallic drops, actually, because it will be away from the sensor?
Well, our system works as visible camera along the power line at about a 50-degree field of view. So you'll be able to monitor them with redundant field of views in both directions, depending on where the sun is located. So we should be able to detect them very, very early as they're being ignited near the power line. Plus, we have onboard technology, which is, detecting volatile organic compounds and a variety of particulates so that we can detect the fire chemically if we don't pick it up on the camera, if it falls outside of our field of view along the power lines. We also have thermal cameras. Once the area heats up, we'll be able to see the differential because we're constantly monitoring. And that's one of the key advantages of being fixed on the ground, is that you have a point of reference that is changing over time, and that makes a reliable detection easier. Finally, you're also not impinging on the airspace. A lot of the first responders that we spoke to were concerned about having flying objects in the airspace above the area which is on fire, so they could respond promptly. That will change from location to location.
Okay, thank you. So the sensor will detect the event like short circuit, and then you say smoke sensor will be able to detect something that is 100 meters away from the power line, right? That's what you say?
The visual sensor should be able to detect it in the field of view, and if it's outside of the field of view, the smoke will be detected. So it depends on the location where it happens. But ideally, if there's a short, the line will be heating up, and we should be able to see that on a thermal camera.
Yeah, that's
shut
important.
it down before you ever get the meltings falling onto the ground. That's really the key to prevention, is the constant monitoring in our view.
So you will detect rays of temperature, and you will cut it off before it gets critical values. Okay.
Exactly. And as we get over time with that data that we're collected, we can train additional models to feed into our system and improve prevention via a variety of events that we detect. We also can create call it a pyramid of events to see which ones are more likely to occur at any given time. Is this a 1 in a million, or is it a 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 event? You classify them that way, and you tackle the most frequent ones first. Although today we have a lot of data about what happened, but we don't know what happened immediately prior to the event in a lot of cases. Where you're seeing heating up of the line, where you're seeing something, you can make a lot of guesses, but there's very little physical information about what happened.
Okay, it's a long discussion, but that's enough answer for the short.
Any other questions?
Well, with the learning opportunities are fantastic. Steve's raised his hand again. Then after Steve, I'm going to move to Edison. So Edison, get ready. Steve?
Gilberto, I just wondered, does each sensor have its own connection to the outside world by a satellite or cellular, or are you meshing?
The short answer is all three of those. So we have a external satellite dish that can be put for remote locations. We're currently working with a specific satellite partner on that one to there's a lot of issues, but basically we're able to send pictures from anywhere in as little as 8 to 10 seconds.
Great.
So we also have 4G LTE on board, and we have a Wi-Fi mesh interface that we're currently testing. But the bottom line is we're able to do that. But there are some scaling issues that we're working on right now, but we're confident we can work on.
Wow, this is fantastic. Edison, are you ready?
Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And if you guys can see my screen here.
Yep.
That is some pressure going after you, but here we go. So I'm from Ringfire, and we are doing some kind of a AI deep learning application, as well as an appliance through the cloud, as well as for the platform. So I'll quickly run over some of the detection and also some of the catastrophes that we've been looking into. So fire incidents, there's nothing more to say about this. It's very, very important. I'll just go over these quickly. And cost of fire in the USA, everybody knows how much it cost us, and some data is very seen online. Challenges is proactive detection. So at Ringfire, we do proactive fire detection through long-range cameras, image recognition, deep learning AI to see from or analyze the smokes, so that we can have an early detection from those. And the traditional methods, as you see indoor and outdoor, most of them are indoors are from the smoke detectors, fire detectors that you already know, and it's usually already too late. The fire has already started, has been already very hard to beat, and also for the for watchtowers in terms of the wildfires, people are still using monitoring stations, using the human eye to detect and alert. So that's where Ringfire comes in. So what we're thinking of is a new AI-based fire detection that we have trained over about 8 years already, and taking advantages for early discovery stage as soon as the smoke shows up on the camera scene. We are working with camera vendors like Axis for the long range image, and also working on 300 meters and below range or mid-range cameras for this kind of training as well. Broader coverage as wide as the camera can see, and also sufficient data collection to forecast risk and support sanity checks from one of our staffs, and also for monitoring stations. So I'll go over a little bit about the council in a little bit. And then some of the issues that has to be resolved is to lower the false alarm rates by filtering out public interferences, and continual learning is what our advantages goes. Appliance. So this is just a glimpse of how our AI architecture goes. And also we are able to grab any kind of images and then also have a small demo in our website to, if you upload or import a image, it can kind of detect the fire. As you see on the left-hand side, there's some smoke around in the area, and the image goes into the weight sharing and backbone side of the detection. And there's an AI algorithm involved here, and then it will quickly capture the boxes of the fire risk. Also, it will transition those into a GIS map in our console for our subscribed users as well. And our AI algo basically looks like this. And once there is a fire detected in the camera scene, feature engineering, manual extraction and selection of the on the top side is most likely a more traditional type of detection. And also on the below is our deep learning algorithm that we partner with Emble Cloud, which is one of our product lines, with feature learning and classifier and direct learning on how it also kind of can detect how the smoke is going, landscapes, and all that kind of stuff. And then classify into your fire, and then you get a detection. AI engines are designed to analyze against real-time videos, and so I definitely agree with Gilberto on how it should be real-time, 24/7. So right now we're running engines through a 24/7 live camera system, and to offload some of that much of the data, we're doing 5 frames per minute for 15 minutes right now. Suspicious symptoms, and also we can inference this data into what we call like a suspicious activity as well, and also wildlife detection as well on this. So aware of fire at fingerprints symptoms before any significant exposure of damages. Tailor AI algorithms empower every smart cameras to detect fire on site and in real time. So we also have this software that we can install onto a camera solution and make the camera smarter to be able to offload some of the image recognition or AI extraction in our backhaul. We work with any kind of solutions out there. We work on the edge side as well, and also put it on the cloud is possible. And also we put some of the AI algos or software side on the node, which is the camera side of the things. Okay, and this is pretty much how our console would look like. There is an overview of how you can see the area that has been already implemented, and also there is a fire view of the camera. You can access the cameras, the real time, and also there will be a camera map of where the camera is facing, as well as some of the satellite kind of area, and also GIS locations, and also for a LiDAR view as well. You can easily receive information from your phone, your app, and we also customize and work with customers on specific app development for their use cases. Some of the highlights is broad adaptivity. It supports any kind of hardware that we are seeing right now, and also we have them portable on the cloud as well as the edge side. High accuracy, we've kind of benchmarked this, but it's more of an estimate to 99% accuracy on smoke and fire shapes, and also a very, very low error reporting rate right now with some of our customers. And it's definitely real time, a 24/7 availability on the camera side, and very, very low cost in terms of implementation, as we really like them to implement into their current ecosystem and also just on the cloud. Okay, quickly go over the FACT, which is like the cloud side of things. So a customer typically will come in with some of the cameras they're already implementing, and then it goes into our their backhaul, which is their servers, and we'll implement our AI right there, plug in our mode A, X, and also model Y. And also then it will go into their software as a service API to their teams who are monitoring stations, and also sending alerts to any of the edge devices that they are using. Quickly go over this, the Smart Devices app for local processing and reporting. Typically, a customer comes in and we will integrate this into their infrastructure and also into their ecosystem, so then they can receive whatever they like in terms of alerts. This will be example. We have this on our website. Also, we have this on a YouTube video of how we detected the smoke from very small angle. Okay. Applications not only towards the wildfires, but also into residentials as well. We have tested indoors as well, and also parks, vineyards, most theaters, maybe other places as well. And we are also targeting some of the vineyards that has very, made a lot of losses from the previous fire catastrophes, right? Okay. And that's it from my side. And we'll gladly take any questions at all. Okay.
Thank you, Edison. It's amazing the opportunities about what can be detected, how it's detected, where we can now detect potential and actual fires, and when the detection can happen across many of these presentations. I'm going to let Steve say his piece because we're quickly running out of time. I would then like to come back and just do a roundtable of the panel for your observations. So, Steve, over to you. If you can be as succinct as possible. I think we've got 10 minutes before the Global Water Network workshop starts at 10:40. So apologies for the short time frame. Over to you.
Absolutely. It was describe yourself in one word. Succinct. There we go. All right. I'll start with just a quick video. Full screen that. Am I sharing this to you?
Yes.
Great. All right. Quick background on me.
Pyronemesis project. First, a little background on me. For 30 years, Steve Wolf has thrilled audiences with stunts and special effects for movies and TV shows. Blowing things up. While working with stars including Tom Cruise, Samuel Jackson, Robert De Niro. He engages audiences with science-intensive shows, such as Discovery's Presidential Beast, Expedition Bismarck, and an ambitious Hindenburg special to solve the mystery of the greatest air disaster. the Science Channel's exploration of Houdini's escapes, and the History Channel's mission to test the science of ancient inventions. So, as you can see, I've spent a lot of time making fires and controlling fires on movie sets.
Still screen sharing, I hope.
Still screen sharing, yep.
All right, great. Sorry. All right, so in this audience, there's no reason to discuss the problem with wildfires. I think we all know how massive this is, and getting worse. And I looked at what was going on in the wildfire space, and I saw, a lot of my companions here on this call, working on some really great data solutions, and it made me wonder, how many gigabytes of data does it take to put out a wildfire? And of course, no amount of information about it, as vital as it is, puts out the fire. So, you could know exactly where the sniper is, and if you send the SWAT team, and if they have no guns, they're not going to get anything done. So I really wanted to know, what does it take to actually put out the fire, the physics solution? I asked firefighters, what do you guys need? And they said, strong wind to our back and some heavy rains. Well, they joke then and go back to work with their shovels and their chainsaws. And I wondered, when I work on a movie set, if James Cameron says, I need strong winds coming from our back and heavy rains, we give it to them. So I wondered why this didn't exist for firefighters. So I developed essentially the concept of a hurricane on wheels. I don't have to reiterate, Jetfire already spoke to the issue of fuel, oxygen, heat, and chemical reaction being the components of fire. But I thought, what if there were a way to take away all of them simultaneously? Fire gone. So I developed this machine here. It's called the Air Striker. And the Air Striker uses a logging skidder, which is the most capable go-anywhere vehicle. It can get places where fire trucks could never imagine, and it can apply chemicals in places where airplanes aren't allowed to fly. And it can do it 24 hours a day. It's using a system of jet engines and misting nozzles to deliver up to 250 mile-an-hour winds, which are carrying mists full of fire retardants and fire suppressants, gels, or protective foams. And this allows you to point jets down. Well, I'll go over that in a second, but basically, here we go. You can point your jets down and use them as a bulldozer to scrape off vegetative matter, really remove the fuel. You can do direct attack, which is something that they don't attempt at all on wildfires right now, especially if you see the size of the fire and the size of the little jet of hose, it's useless. But being able to drive massive winds carrying up to 10,000 gallons a minute of mists into the fire, you can knock a fire down. You can also control prescribed burns. Right now, prescribed burns can only be done when the wind's going in the right direction, but because this technology allows you to own the wind, you can move the fire where you want. And you can also confine and capture fugitive embers, which move fires from one place to another. So when people are on fire, in movies, we use a protective water-based gel, and we can cover a building in that same gel in under 2 minutes. So we can be working on direct fire attack. We come across a structure, we protect it, and move on to more direct fire attack. Developed this with hundreds of firefighters, emergency services, forestry service agencies, and it's going to save a lot of time, money, and homes by being able to really mega increase the amount of suppression capability that we have. Once we get there, we can also protect escape routes by shooting gels down both sides of a highway, so that you don't end up with these situations where highways are covered in fire. Skip all the financial crap because who cares? And that's it. I'm going to rejoin our meeting here. getting out of screen share, right? All right, so that's the basis of the technology, is massive wildfire suppression really quickly with any combination of chemicals, whether they're stuff that's coming from Jetfire or Go Green Fire, or whatever we're spraying on it. It allows us to cover huge areas, because most of the times when they look at a lot of these fires, they say, how far away can we get from it, not how can we bring the fight to the fire. And that's really what we want to do, is be able to get in early with a lot of horsepower, knock these fires down where they are before they turn into mega fires.
Wow, and bringing a scale solution to what are scale disasters.
Yes. Once flames reach a certain height, they just call the troops back, because there's nothing they can do. And,
Thank you, Steve. I see some hands up, but I'm not sure which are new hands.
All hands are good hands.
Any questions out there?
Yes, I have a question. Actually, this question to both, to Steve and to Jetfire. So, listening your presentation, one thought in my head, that suppressing fire in wilderness, we need to remember that there is a life after wildfire.
Yeah.
So we assume that after we suppress wildfire, the nature needs to grow up. Trees needs to be restored. Forest life needs to be restored. So putting jets into the ground, jet onto the tree with a tremendous power. We suppress the wildfire, but do we destroy everything else at the same time? It's the same question to Jetfire, dumping tons of this chemical on the wilderness, on the trees, presumably suppressing fire. Do we at the same time kill everything, every living being in this forest? That's my question.
It's a great question, Misha, but there are surfactants right now that have no long-term effect on what's growing after. What you often have, though, is you have a sterilization of the soil from the mass heat, and that is resistant to the growth of new materials. So being able to come back with the same technology and blow soil restoratives back into the area, and put in surfactants that will soften the soil and allow it to hold moisture again, actually will speed up reforestation and regrowth. You can also spread seeds, up to 300 meters from the machine, using it as basically a giant spray can to reseed an area to protect against mudslides.
Because Steve, I see this tremendous power in a limited application, like creating a fire breaks. The fire breaks a layer without any fuel, just to stop fire to spread forward or backward, whatever wind is. So that makes sense. But I don't know. I don't know if you put this tremendous force from a pure jet engine into the forest. So you say the forest will
Misha,
grow.
this is a fascinating thread that I'd love for us to continue. However, the other session is starting live now. Global Water Network. Please see the Zoom link. I apologize. Delighted to continue this, and feel free to continue this later today. I'm looking forward.
Okay, Steve. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Misha.
Hey, Steve. Love the idea overall.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so we need to switch to another one. Right?
That was an exciting mix of different ideas where there's lots of synergy. So please all continue the conversation.
Thanks, James.
Yeah,
thank you all.
Steve, I love the idea of using the engines, and I think that was also used in the 90s, right? After Desert Storm to put out the oil wells.
That's exactly right. This is technology developed by my ancestors from Hungary, working for the Russians.
Yeah. No, it's a great thing. I'm wondering, like, is there a way, like, right now, one of the pushbacks that I see coming into this area is that unless it's a greener technology, it becomes very difficult to have it taken on. Is there a way to achieve a similar effect with an electrically propelled system that might leverage, for example, power on the grid where you have it? Or do you actually need that much airflow to put it out?
So jet engines give us the most efficient amount of airflow. The jet engines that I'm using, are no less green than the jet engines on the 747s and the DC-9s that they're dropping fire with. So if they're using them from the air, how is it any less green than using it from the ground? And we're trying to put out the fire, which is the big pollution source. The fire engines run on diesel too, and nobody's complaining about that either.
No, and it gives you precision, right? So if it's not like it's like a sniper rifle, so it gives you precision where to put your whatever.
Right, and whether it's a sniper rifle or any tool, it's another tool in the arsenal, and no one tool is the answer. What the people in charge of the fires are doing, they're looking for more tools, not a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. I love the idea.
When you need a sniper rifle, a shotgun won't do.
Absolutely. You don't want to destroy more than it's necessary.
No, but the way they're destroying it right now is they're using bulldozers, and those create scars that last, 20, 30 years on just blowing the surface fuel off the ground. And
that's what
with a blade, a bulldozer blade, it cuts and that's it. It's a 0 or 100. With this, I can throttle the jets up and down just enough air to move the fuels off the ground and not damage the ground underneath it. What we're directing the jets at are burning trees. So
now, Steve? Can I generate a very quick one? Now, can I know what kind of a micron that will be sprayed into the fire area? Because we got to be very careful of the micron, because the combustion molecules can accelerate, but your idea is fabulous, because from the air, when they discharge, they are supporting the fire in the forest, because there are a certain amount of jet fuel is being released in the forest in the way of doing. But if you're doing from the land, then we have to calculate the combustion molecules, because the tree is concerned of heavy hydrocarbon discharge. And when they go at about 200 to 300 degrees, a tree will never burn at 200 degrees. You got to get 300 degrees. So your jet have to be proportionated with the velocity of the combustion molecules to run. So I think I would like to discuss this, because it's a fantastic idea. And if we're going to spray water, you're going to support the fire, because water, the chemical compound is H2O, and the H2O splits to hydrogen and oxygen, and that's how it supports the forest fire further. And the electrons are very high. When the electron is high, it runs in split seconds. So there are certain factors we have to look at it, and then I think we're going to have a fabulous solution for the world.
No, absolutely. So there's 3 factors that I'm looking at right now, and probably going to research them through an NSF grant. But when we blow, when we blow mist, we have questions of what is the droplet size, and there has yet to be good research on what the optimal droplet size for suppression is. There has yet to be good research on what is the optimal droplet concentration per cubic volume of air, and what is the optimal air speed for suppression. So these are 3 levers that we can move around.
I would like to give you a very quick one in science. Now, every 1 kilo of water, if it's for 50 micron, it is able to cool down about 7 kilo of ice. We just take that kind of a figure. Now, so if the micron is lower, it is faster to knock down the fire. So if you whack the jet engine into that, and if the micron is small, and if it's going to be just naked then we're going to run into a problem. The micron has to be coded. It has to have some kind of a coding that we will talk about it. And then you're going to cool down the area where the spreading of the electrons cannot take place and it's going to stop. You see, that's a good idea, you know. We will discuss further on this because it's a bit of a lengthy point. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are several chemistries I'm looking at, you know, as my surfactant suppression agent. I've looked at NovaCool, Go Green Fire, you know, your JN669.
Yeah.
And even, you know, glycerin-based soaps make really great surfactants.
But they support combustion in a very big way because there is a covalent bond discharged by the tree, which is called LIMD and hexanino. And these are very chemicals that have been discharged from the ground, which is methane gas, that is called the peatland. And then from the tree, you got hemdicellulose. So, you know, it's a combination. Yeah. So we have to work it right. And then I think you got a bingo.
Well, I've got essentially like nuclear powered spray can, you know, and that's the part I bring. And then chemists will decide, you know, what's the optimal thing to put into the nozzles and what's the optimal particle size.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to exit this chat now, but I'd like to, for all those still on, this has been a great conversation. It's such a mix of like exciting technology, some impressive demos, actually using data in a great positive way in a world where we use data for so many negative things, and the ability to scale, and the fact that we get people talking together and sharing across the phases of this issue, I think is really cool. So thanks all for your time and wonderful meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Steve, love to connect offline. I dropped my email in the chat.
Yeah, and Gilberto, I really was interested in integrating the telemetry on my machines with the telemetry on your system, because you're doing predictive as well as responsive, and the ability to know where to put these where machines should be staged
is important. Yeah,
predicting, you know, probabilities of where the fire is going to happen next. So if I can get close, you know, in advance, right, then we can keep it small.
Yeah, no, definitely happy to chat on a variety of things. Also, there may be some areas to collaborate on. There's a lot of effort being put in right now for brush clearing in California. There's a lot of grants coming out in the area for that. And so that may be an area of possible collaboration. For example, if we find a way to make, and this will require a lot of research, but basically brush clearing more efficient, more effective, and less damaging. If you don't have to do a prescribed fire, but you can, for example, clear out the brush in the area with yours in a safer way, then there's an argument for reducing both the impact of brush clearing and actually doing it in a more controlled, more efficient manner. So that's why I'm saying we should sort of chat and see if we can, you know, get something to gel.
And I'm just curious, so do we have to, Judah, do we have to clear brush, or can brush be treated to make it less flammable?
Well, I mean, that would be the ideal scenario if you can treat it without, you know, especially you can add value without actually killing the brush at that point. And California is going to be all over that, I think. Obviously, you know, proof is in the pudding. You have to test it out to see whether that goes anywhere. But if you can do the effective brush clearing, like underneath power lines, for example, you can treat the area which is no longer being forested in California with some method without actually damaging the environment. That could be really interesting. The question is, how do we prove that we're not damaging the environment? And that may require a bit of work, but it's, you know, not undoable.
Right, we're using a triangulation of one machine pushing and two machines going in from the side. Can we just direct a controlled burn right up underneath the power line and run it all underneath there, so when they do drop a line or a spark, there's nothing there to catch?
Yeah, and they do spend a lot of money in brush clearing every year, so that could be a way to.
A lot cheaper this way.
Huh?
It'd be a lot cheaper to drive a fire right up under the line. Keep it
maybe.
Keep it to a 25-meter wide burn and just go straight up.
So that's another place we want to, look at. Anyways, I got to run for now. I'll be back in the afternoon session, but great to meet you, and let's connect offline.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. It's just you and me now, huh? Mr. Micron, Dr. Micron.
Me too. I'm here.
I'm in the morning right now at almost 2 o'clock in the morning in Singapore.
Singapore, wow.
Steve, this is an idea that has been right on my mind for a long time. I've been fighting in Indonesia. I've been fighting in many places. The jet engine velocity it's a fantastic idea, but you need to have, you can protect even a burning fire that's advancing by your liquid you spray, they come to a stop. And that's the liquid that I produce. And you must test it out and you will know. But you see, the good thing is you have distance with your engines, right? And the firefighters, you see, always remember, when the fire is raging, it takes only 6 seconds for it to pass through. So if you can block it, then you made it through. Now, the liquid must have the ability to halt, because it will be in vain if the jet engine is just spraying and the level of heat can run up to 3,000 degrees because it's a cluster heat, and combined with the bottom land that is supporting the natural gas. Now, a lot of people fail to understand this. As a scientist, we study all around on the fire. Where we can stop, because remember, oxygen is freely available. You cannot stop oxygen. You have to interfere with the combustion molecule. And the only way to interfere is to send the liquid with the jet to the furthest distance, and you block them. So they will never travel. They can't travel anymore, because if it's water, they get dried up. And what happens to the tree carbohydrate? They support the combustion straight away. So you need to have something like a water coating that will never carry on. Now, if you use surfactant are byproduct of petroleum. Now, even if you use glycol, you can use many things. They will support the combustion. Now, you have to test and see the liquid doesn't burn, because once you use it in a jet, you are 100% sure you're going to knock down the flame. The knockdown will be there 100%, and you're knocking down in distance, so they can never travel anymore. So this is something we can assure you, because we are 100% non-metal. What is green? That means your liquid must have 0 metal, no PFOA, no PFOS. Now, we have tested in the lab. I think Jetfire, you should send a report up to have a look at it. So when you have that kind of a liquid, you will never damage the ground, the vegetation, nothing. It will grow again. So I'm really thrilled to be in this meeting, because I finally found something that really practical, believe me. And you're going to save life, environment, animal, everything, and you're going to help the firefighters big time. You see, I'm really excited.
Me too. Me too.
It's a fabulous idea. I mean, you came up with it because you see, to me, we look at range. We want range, and we want a sharp, fast, split-second range. Nothing else can do than a jet engine. Now, you can have any kind of a fire pump. They will never do the job what you're going to do. You know what I mean? This is heavy stuff. And if you have Manitou, instead of tires, and if you have Manitou slings, I can tell you, you can go right into the forest, and you'll be just breaking down all the flame. Manitou links, those Manitou links, they are very nice links, and this can be even propelled with intelligence. You don't have a man to run it in, you see. So, I mean, I'm not an equipment specialist, but I have some very special equipment with me that that can bring down huge number of fire because it's not been patented yet. Now this stuff, it took me quite a long time to fix it because of the dynamics of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Can you
Yeah,
put it in front of your face so I can see it better?
Can you see it now? Sorry.
That's right. Yep. So we're going to have one of those. We're going to have one of those running right down inside the center of the jet, and then a ring of them around the outside of the jet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you got that in there, it's going to be a big game.
And I'm going to
solve a big problem.
So those are ME nozzles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to go up to 800 ME nozzles per jet.
Wow. I have this one alone is almost 100. Now, the more you have it and your propelling level, you see, if you use surfactant, they will fly all over because that's the characteristic of surfactant. You got to have something that density is high. Let's say 1.2, 1.3, they are heavy. So when you spray them up, they will fly all into the direction that you want. You see, if you have surfactant, it's like a soap, a bubbles. It's going to fly direction that is not going to do the job. You know? So I think we'll discuss about it, and I will try. If you need to work with us in just the liquid alone, we are more than happy to send you some to give a try and see how it runs. You see, now that is a blower that is available. That blower can go to a certain distance, but it's not effective, which is readily available in the market. And they don't use a jet like what you're planning, because jet has a strong force and the dynamics are totally different. And the aerodynamics is produced by the jet. Why? Because it will be hanging in there and it will be doing its job in a free radical molecule. So that'd be very interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Here, take a look. I just put a link in the chat.
Yes.
So the jet is the huge one. And then I wondered, what's the opposite side of the extreme? What's the backpack version of the jet?
Right.
That you can use for, you know, when the first car pulls up, when the first motorcycle with a, pulls up with a backpack, what can he do for immediate suppression? Did that link make it to you? It's in the chat.
Yeah, Steve, the link doesn't work.
Yeah.
The link doesn't work.
Oh wait, add the number 1 to it.
In the beginning or in the end?
Like Wolfpack test 1.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Let's try. Okay, it's a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, just watch it. It's only 40 seconds.
Okay. Wow. Perfect.
Okay. Okay.
So I wanted to find out what happens when you go to the opposite scale, but rapid attack. So I just took a 4-gallon backpack and a cordless pressure washer.
Okay. Cordless pressure washer. Yeah.
Yeah, and I put Go Green Fire in it.
Right. Yeah. So that's a liquid. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the same pressure washer.
You do.
Yeah.
That's great.
Steve, are you able to share your screen so Dr. J can see it? Because I can't share my screen.
Oh, yes, I will. Screen share. And by the way, and I hate Teams. It's the worst app they could have used.
Oh. No problem. We can see the, if you send us the link, we'll try to work it out. Yeah.
Let me share my screen to you.
I think your screen is already shared.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
So you're not seeing me. Okay. Damn, I'm seeing all these great gestures and everything.
What I'm seeing is something else. Okay.
No, hang on. I'm going to open this for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Dr. Judah, I have Mr. C's LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and email. So I'll send him an email shortly with you in the CC, Dr. Judah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I see this. Yeah.
Okay. So here's one. I'm going to show you a couple of things. One is the giant CAFS machine that I made.
Okay.
This is just.
Yeah, I see all the spray. Yeah.
Yeah? Is it you seeing that?
Yeah, it's a lot of foam. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
So that's a huge caps machine that I made, but it's very portable. You can pull it on the back of a pickup truck.
Right.
And, you know, huge foam coverage. But let me show you the video. I was trying to pull up here, your channel, videos. Okay, so this is the Wolf Pack test.